Good morning, how you doing? It is Thursday. Jesus Christ, I thought it was like Monday, Tuesday time. We're actually flying through this week. Today, I quickly wanted to remark on where we kind of are state of the world in terms of. Let me turn down my contrast. My contrast is too damn high. My brightness needs leveling off. There you go. That's a bit better. Sorry about that. Yeah, like where we are in terms of how far along we are in terms of the curve of this coronavirus, in terms of how it's impacting small businesses, especially SMBs, small to medium-sized businesses. A lot of those companies now are trying to apply for the grants, the money, or putting up money themselves so that they can furlough their employees or their workers. And that's a little bit up in the air in terms of, this is in the UK by the way, that's a little bit up in the air in terms of will the government pay out, and when will they pay out, and will there be any contingencies or issues with those grants. And so in the interim, in the short term, the small businesses and medium-sized businesses have to find that money somehow and then kind of offset it until they get that paid back, which is incredibly stressful for the small businesses. So not only are we many days, weeks into this thing, we're still going up on that graph. We're not kind of, going over the top of that curve yet on the downward spiral to less people getting infected, less people getting it, less people going into the hospital. I think the things that are in place are working. It's actually helping. The spread of infection is dropping. But we're still seeing cases go up because obviously more people are probably getting tested. So what I wanted to talk about today, this is a little segue from coronavirus. I'm not going to talk about too much to do with coronavirus, even though it's in the back of my mind all the time. What I want to talk about today is universal basic income and the fact that at some point that has to be something that is either looked at, pushed through, talked about. I know that Spain is rapidly rolling out a UBI, a universal basic income, which, if you think about it, it just makes sense, right? This is an unprecedented event, and I think sometimes we don't take it for granted, but it's something that's outside of the remit of like our thought processes sometimes. It's like this is a global event. It'll be as if some massive big meteor hit the planet and we had all this disaster relief happening all over the world. We'd need to deploy various parts of the government to deal with it. And I feel like if we're going to save small to medium-sized businesses, if we're going to save economies as we know economies to be, then we need to, offset a few of the things that most people have, which is accommodation, mortgages, rent, a place to live. Otherwise you're just going to end up with lots of people turfed out on the streets, and then you end up with the situation of how do you there's people everywhere again. Like you have the same problem again. So that's kind of interesting to me, like where that's going to go. The other thing that's interesting to me is digital assets, so cryptocurrency. We're coming up to the halving of Bitcoin, and I truly believe that there is an opportunity right now for the governments of the world to get behind crypto assets and, getting behind content creators and small businesses to digitize what they do, their creative services for a start, and get online. There's so many places where you can be putting digital art, for instance, and earning cryptocurrency for that. And having, for the first time, assets and investments that you have for the first time. Might be a whole bunch of people out there who have a 9-to-5 job, or maybe an 8-12 hour shift that they do X amount of times a week. They could be easily taking a small chunk of that money and investing it into these crypto services. And I know the majority of people are going to be scared of them because they're going to freak out about hackers and Bitcoin issues with exchanges and all that kind of thing, and I agree with people on that. But you take something like D-Lease, which I've been using probably for about 6 weeks now, and I've taken my Steam investments and my Hive investments. Actually, I didn't even know that the Hive investments were doing this, but they're actually making me, I think, about 12 or 13% APR, which you can't get that on the high street. Like, there's nothing out there like that. So they're performing, crypto investments are performing really, really well. So I just think there's so much that we can be doing right now. So many things that we can be getting out there. And I'll definitely be doing a video about D-Lease at some point. But just seeing the model of what Spain are doing with their UBI and rolling it out, saying it's going to be a permanent thing. It's not just going to be something for while the coronavirus is around. I think that's super, super smart. Imagine if everybody was getting, like Andrew Yang said, like this $1,000 a month. If that automatically covered your rent and your food, just think of the freedom that you would have to wake up and be like, I'm going to start a business. That business idea that I've always had, I'm going to start a business, and the money that I make as profit, I'm going to put into crypto assets, and I'm going to have an investment, and I'm going to let that investment sit around for 5 years or 2 to 5 years, whatever you want to do. And if it makes some money, then I'll sell those digital assets, or I'll reinvest into another portfolio. And before you have it, you have people who can sustain themselves. So I'm very interested in those conversations right now. If anybody's interested in having those conversations in a video chat, or knows of those happening as a video chat anywhere else on the web, get in touch with me. I would love to be part of those conversations, or I would love to watch content that is being put out about UBI and digital assets investments right now. All right, I will catch up with you tomorrow. Take care. Bye. Drifting